Hi, this is Carrie Schell from On Point Quilter. In this week's video, I will be showing you how I used Art and Stitch to draft the poem that I will then stitch out on my long arm. Before I get started in Art and Stitch, I wanted to take one of the existing poems I had for Come Said the Wind, and I want to create a JPEG image, and I'm going to use that to assist me, not necessarily to directly trace, but to get sort of the approximate sort of sizing and placement of the words as I draft them in Art and Stitch. So I went to my website and I searched for a poem, and I had an earlier posting where I had a download, a PDF download for the poem. So I'm just going to click on that. And I'm going to right click and I'm going to do a save as. And this just says Come Said the Wind poem for 9 by 17 without lines. I'm going to save that. I'm going to go into my downloads and I'm going to find the one that I just saved, and I'm going to double click on it, which is going to open it in Adobe Acrobat. And what I'm going to do is use my snipping tool, and I'm going to just take a snapshot of the entire poem, and I'm going to save that to someplace that I can find it quickly. So I'll just call it Come Said the Wind poem 9 by 17. Okay, now I'm going to open a new file in Art and Stitch, and I'm going to select the backdrop tool, and I'm going to navigate to where I just saved this, and I'm going to find the Come Said the Wind poem 9 by 17 and open that. And now I'm going to want to make sure of two things. First of all, that my poem fits into a 17.5 by 9-inch space, and that and also within the paper size of 12 by 18. So to get started, I'm just going to select the rectangle tool, draw a box, and I'm going to transform the box, and I'm going to turn the maintain aspect ratio off in the properties, and I'm going to first of all take this box and make it 18 across and a height of 12, and that in essence will be my paper size. Now, and I'm going to go ahead and select that box, and I'm going to select the center. Now I'm going to duplicate that, Control C, Control V, and I'm going to do a transform on the duplicated one and make that a width of 17.5 and a height of 9. And again, the maintain aspect ratio is off, so I'm going to apply that, and I'm going to center that as well. Now, I can tell that my backdrop needs to be larger than it is, so I'm going to select my backdrop tool, and I'm going to just drag it to reposition it so that it fits within that second box and that it's reasonably centered. And I think that looks pretty good there. And I'm going to lighten it a bit just so you can see what I'm doing a little bit easier than see my poem. Now, what I want to do is go to the library, which is the one with the star key, and go into the folder labeled Quilt, Alphabet, and Text, and it's towards the end there. And you are going to want to select the Quilter's script. And once that comes in, just drag that a little bit above the poem. And in sequence view, you can see that it's the first one are the capital letters, the second, actually no, the first were the the small letters, the second the capital, and then the third the numbers. And I'm not going to use any of the numbers, so I'm going to just select that and delete that just to get that out of the way. Now, in order to actually draw the words, I found it useful to put a guideline in. So I'm going to take a guideline and I'm going to drag it. And again, I'm just going to drag it above above my backdrop, but below my alphabet. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to show you just the first word here, and it's come. So I'm going to take the capital C, and because I am going to use these letters multiple times, the easiest way to do that is just select the first letter and then do a Control C, Control V, and then drag it down. And then the O, Control C, Control V, M, and as I do it, I'm just bringing them down. And I found it useful to do like a whole row at once, but I'm just going to show you the come because that's, I think, enough to get started here. So now the key and the reason I wanted the guideline. One of the beauties of this particular alphabet is the letters end and start at the same place, which make them very easy to connect up. So I want to start by bringing that C so that the end of the C is on my guideline. And I'm going to just zoom in so you can see that better. Now I'm going to use the pick tool and select the O, and all of these small letters have the start and stop at that same plane. So I'm putting it right next to the C. I'm going to take my M and I'm going to do the same, and I'm also going to do the same with the E. So they are all looking like they're connected. Obviously they're not at this point, but to connect them up, I'm going to select the Reshape tool, select the first letter, and then with the T key depressed on the computer, I'm just going to wiggle that till the C and O are together. And I'm going to do the same thing with the M and the E. So that now I have the word come. Now what I can do is use the select, and I can, I know that that's going to be a little bit too large, so I'm going to bring that down. I'm going to look at my navigation so I can see both that and the word, and I'm going to just drag that down in place over the actual backdrop. So I want to try to get that come about the size of my printed word there, and I think that actually is pretty good there. And so if you hide the backdrop, that's really what I'm looking for here. And so you're going to want to go ahead and you're going to want to basically do this for all of the letters. Now, what I have found is that, like for words like the and the, once you do them once, when it repeats, just take it and copy the previous word. But because I did a copy and paste from that initial alphabet, I don't have to do a seek and find. The alphabet is all sitting in order. I can just come and I can do each of the words. Okay, now I've drafted the first line. I'm going to go ahead and show you the backdrop again, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit on that first row, and I'm going to want to make sure that everything again is lining up. And the easiest way to do that is to put some guidelines. I'm going to put sort of the bottom of where the small letters are, and then at the top of the small letters that maybe don't go up, you know, the ones that aren't extended. And so now what I can do is go ahead and hide my backdrop, and I can make adjustments if I want so that, you know, if you can see the OME fits in place. This I didn't make quite big enough. So I'm going to go ahead and make it a little bit bigger so that it fits in. I've now finished typing the entire poem and lining everything up. And if you look at it, it looks pretty good. I'm going to remove the guidelines at this point. And just sort of check and see that it makes sense with how things are sort of spaced. I'm actually going to take all of these words and I'm going to go ahead and do another center on that, which will place everything very evenly. Now I can select everything and I can apply stitches, but there's one more trick, and that is I'm going to right click and select Resequence, and I'm going to select each of the words in order so that when it is printing out and when it is sewing out, it does them in the order that I selected. And so once you've got that done, you can save it in your machine type. Let me share with you the stitch out of the poem here. And I'll speed everything up. And you will want to do this to make sure that everything is stitching out in the order that you want it to. Here is the final stitch out on my long arm. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video on using Art and Stitch to create quilted words. If you would like more tips, please subscribe to my weekly newsletter at www.onpointquilter.com.